What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Stay Frothy, the podcast you hate that you love. My name's Brad. I'm here again with Craig. Craig, say hey.
Hey.
So yeah, welcome back. We're here, back in Craig's apartment, per usual, for another episode. It's episode 6, I believe.
Yeah, it's nighttime here in Washington, D.C.
It's nighttime.
It's what was actually a sunny day, which was shocking. First time I've seen the sun in maybe 3-4 months here, so
Yeah.
that was pleasant.
Well, it's just a good change-up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We've always done these on the weekend. And, well, I mean, people who listen to these, they don't hear it on the exact day that it's recorded, but we're actually doing this one on a Thursday. Thirsty Thurs, provided by yours truly, the Bud Lattes.
Bud Light.
This podcast is sponsored by Bud Light.
It's not, but we only drink Bud Light on this. Maybe one day.
It is a Bud Light podcast. That is refreshing. Did you see that one day? I actually put it up on my story, but I just tweeted Bud Light has made a comeback.
Yeah.
And their actual...
they said they never left, which, shocker, they have it. Bud Light, best light beer, and the original Pilsner.
Well, yeah, Bud Light's Twitter account tweeted back at me. I didn't even at them. And they responded back and they just said, we never left. And so I was just kind of like, whoa, okay, all right.
No, they didn't. They didn't. You're in the wrong to say that.
You think Bud Light has never left?
No. There's never been a moment in my life when Bud Light has never been number one.
I don't think they ever made a statement. I mean, I actually blogged about this. I told them, I went back and looked back at the history. Bud Light has never really stood out as like a prominent beer, I don't know, what do you want to call them? A beer advertising, a beer, just in general. They've never been
the biggest commercials.
No, you could say Anheuser-Busch has the biggest commercials.
Okay,
if you're talking
within
the umbrella, yeah. If it's within the umbrella, yes, that makes sense. But Bud Light in specific, because remember the
yeah, that stuff. Yeah, that was great.
That was Budweiser.
That was Budweiser. Budweiser makes Bud Light.
Anheuser-Busch makes Bud
I guess people are trying to cut down on their calories recently. You know, this is a whole millennial type deal, and Bud Heavies kind of went out of style, which is fine. Too many calories.
Yeah.
People watching their figure. I mean, shit, I'm getting fat. And, you know, just from drinking the shit. And I'm getting fat from Bud Lights. And I guess if you just compound it, you know, you just drink twice as many Bud Lights as you are Budweisers, then you're just going to get to that level.
Well, if you do it in excess, that's the thing. Mm-hmm. In excess. Is that what you're saying? You've been kind of going a little in on the Bud Lights?
Nope. No, I don't drink in excess. I drink responsibly, which is what they preach.
How many calories do you think is in a Bud Light?
I don't know. You could probably read the label and figure that out, but
they don't put that information on there.
Really? It's probably because people don't want to fucking read it.
Yeah.
They can't.
I think
people
put
like a little Snapchat sticker on there so you can let everybody know that you're drinking a Bud Light. And then you can follow them on Snapchat.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fucking weird, but whatever. I'll go with it.
No nutrients labels. I think every beer is like that, but...
All right, so what are we talking about today, Brad?
Good question, my good friend Craig Jackson. So it's been about 3 years since I've moved up to DC. Thank you. Little backstory. I used to live in Raleigh, North Carolina. Once I graduated college from UNCW. I worked in Raleigh for about 6 months, and then I came to the realization that I was like, I needed a change in my life. And so I hit up Craig at what hour of the day was it?
I don't know. It's pretty late.
It was like it was like a 7 o'clock in the evening type call.
It was pretty late.
But I hit him up and I was like, yo man, this isn't working out. Like I gotta make a change. I gotta make a move. Then, he hooked it up. I was able to move up to DC, and it just completely... Oh, hey, man. How's it going?
Do you want in on some of this action?
Yeah, did you want to...
What? You should get in on some of this action. Let's just...
Our buddy Bato just walked... He just walked into the podcast. Hey, have a good shower, man. Where were we at?
just on the fact that you had moved up here.
So I'd moved up to the city, and it made me, now looking back in the 3-year, I guess you could say, anniversary of living in DC, it really opened up my eyes, and it really made me just realize how different like life can be outside of where you have always known and grown up and just been surrounded by, just like the culture and the people and just in general, like how everything is just so different.
So in a very short and concise way to put this, Brad moved from his hometown and then moved into a different metropolitan area in which he had nowhere, in which he had no one that he knew besides probably me and a few other folks.
Right.
And there's a drastic difference. I mean,
right.
And especially, where I can understand is like, so I never really put in my head that I was ever going to stay in Raleigh, North Carolina. I moved there from New Jersey before I went to high school, and so it definitely is like a drastic change, but it is also one of those things where you take Raleigh. I mean, Raleigh for a lot of people is that move,
right?
You know what I mean? So it kind of just goes. You have to keep things in mind, put things in perspective. I think where you see like a drastic difference is that it was new and it was different and it was something that you had never done before. I mean, I don't even think you had ever visited DC before that.
Right.
And you had moved into a place that, I mean, it's America's capital. It's probably one of the most powerful cities in the world.
Right.
So, just based off that, I mean, yes, things are going to be drastically different. Things are
I mean,
a little weird, probably.
What made you, because like we were from the same area and we went to the same high school, but what made you want to make that change to just kind of leave your area? And this isn't even me talking down on Raleigh or any other city that's not like a major city, but it's like what made you come to the realization of like, hey, I need to make a change here. I need to go to somewhere that's like a little bit bigger, more metropolitan, just expand my horizon when it comes to the world. Like, what made you make that change to move?
So it actually was like none of that. So some of my best friends in college had decided to move here for whatever reasons, whether it be girls, whether it be work, whether it be just overall like the opportunity. And so I kind of saw that as, once I graduated from college, and I think a lot of people actually struggle with this, it's just like understanding, all right, what's next? So it's like you go to college, you go there for 4 years, and a lot of times you get mired up in like the bullshit, right? So like you're drinking a bunch, you go into class, your days like kind of catch up to you. Right. Next thing you know, you're walking across the stage and you're getting a degree.
Life flashes.
Yeah, you're getting a degree and you like almost in turn like pop out the other side. You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh man, like I'm done. So now what?
Yeah.
And so that now what is kind of like this huge glaring question. And so I actually ended up staying at Elon for another summer after that, just because I really didn't know what to do and I had an internship opportunity. And so as I saw different people fall into their certain circumstances, I was like, okay, well, a lot of my really, really good friends are in Washington, D.C. A kid I had grown up with goes to Howard. He's in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
This kind of makes sense. So I'd started applying here. And, it was difficult. I mean, it's difficult when you, like, don't live in an area to apply to get jobs, and especially if it's not something that you're doing through, like, your, career network in the school or through people that you know. And so ended up landing a job, and, kind of the rest was history. I ended up working there for, like, 3.5 years, moved on, and, work at the company I'm at now. Yeah. But it wasn't necessarily so much, like, I was striving to get something else or striving to look for something else. It was definitely like this is what's convenient. There's friends there. I have a network, and I want to go somewhere where I can feel comfortable. And DC is different from a lot of cities from the aspect of you're not like drowning into a population that is the city. Whereas like you can move to LA. Like you move to LA, like LA's massive. Right. So like you like miss out
like
on
LA, New York. I mean,
New York, but like New York is big, but it can be small, like because
you have your little cities or your little inner
you have your like little inner pockets and shit, and like that was fine, but I'm sure you can relate to it. Or actually, I don't even know if you've actually done a trip up to New York, but you go to New York and
not ever since
the whole concept of New York is sick. Yeah. You go up there, you're like, man, there's so many people here. It's so fun. Everybody's going out clubbing. There's so much to see, so much to do, so much history there. And then you get like 3 days in and you're like, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
This is overwhelming.
This is overwhelming. I gotta leave.
I mean,
this is crazy.
The idea of New York just freaks me out. And not to say that like the city itself, because the city itself is just, they call it the concrete jungle for a reason. There's always something going on.
There's
like,
always something going on.
I could say the same thing about DC, but it's probably like 3 times as much going on
DC
in New
is
York.
different. DC is a city that was once kind of like,
what is it?
awkward,
Like a hybrid, like all government.
Well, it was like awkwardly gangster, and like, you kind of like live, close to Baltimore. It kind of shares like a similar persona of like each of those cities. And then, in comparison to New York's like so well established. I mean, New York is like, everything is old.
Yeah.
There's not like a lot of new buildings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you go to, in DC, everything is kind of new. Everything is kind of, I guess the word is gentrified. That's like kind of what we fall back on. But
right.
Everything is kind of new and being built up, and there's new communities. I mean, like, just take, for example, in DC, they just built the wharf right on the water.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful, but it's also like brand new. And so people that come back that haven't been living in DC for like give it like a year pocket or 2 years.
They come back and they see that and they're like, holy shit.
Yeah, I don't even recognize it.
A year, it's crazy what a year's difference can do to a city. Like even going back to Raleigh and even going back to where I went to school, Wilmington, man, like just the changes that occur in just months and years time.
Right. Well, I think to your point about kind of being tired of like the hometown and things like that, and just like wanting to move out from where you grew up, I think you get comfortable with where you grew up, and like things just like get too familiar, and you kind of get into a situation where you like see a lot of familiar faces.
Yeah.
And there is always an itch, no matter what, no matter who you are, is to get out and see new things and see new places.
I think it's healthy. I mean, you think about it. You've been surrounded by a city and a culture and a group of people, so to speak, like within that demographic, that state or that city,
right?
And you're just so accustomed to it, and like your lifestyle is just kind of adapted to it, and you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Like the things that you do, the places that you go to eat, the I don't know, the rhetoric that you
right.
talk.
But like then you can flip it on its head, right? And so you take people that lived in D.C. or lived in Northern Virginia, lived in Maryland, like bordering the city. And those people are just as anxious to get out of their city and move to places like Raleigh as we are from moving to Raleigh to places like D.C. or moving to places like New York.
Right, because it's different. But would you say, in regards to things that are going on, would you compare them as equal?
Not necessarily, but in a certain sense, yes, because there's going to be cultural differences no matter where you go. Like, an interesting bit, I just returned from being in Western Europe, and people just are very, like kind of like stuck in their ways as to like what the tradition is and what they do and what they see in their certain area. But they'll look at us and they'll say like, oh, like, well, you're from America. Well, America is like several different countries in one. You have the New England, then you have the Mid-Atlantic, then you have the South, then you have the Midwest, then you have the Southern Midwest, then you have the Southern West, then you have the, California just as a fucking state.
It's its own. They are literally its own. Like,
and then you have the
demographic.
Then you have the Pacific Northwest, and so it's all those places are so different that they almost make up like a collection of countries that would be in contrast,
individuals in their own.
Like kind of like the Western Europe. So there's a lot going on, and I think that within the different regions around the United States, people are just so different. So to your point, yes, when you go and move from like a place like this and move to a Raleigh, they get there and they're like, man, like barbecue, man, like baseball.
True.
Damn, like,
we can't say, I mean, there's no Major League Baseball team in North Carolina.
Like, that's baseball country, though.
Yeah.
There's no major basketball teams in Raleigh either.
College basketball.
That's basketball country.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and like people take that and they embrace that. And so, like, sure, like you even look at, even to your point of what you're saying, you're like, yeah, there's no like major professional sports. Man, you move down to Tobacco Road. I mean, it's about college basketball. You know what I mean? Like, it's serious.
It
is. And that is like the professional sports.
It is.
And so, yes, I think that those folks that do move from these different areas, whether you're from New York, LA, Seattle, Miami, Dallas, you moved into all these different places, you learn so much and you see so much that, sure, being at home is comfortable and it's a norm and it's something that you strive to get out of. But no matter where you go, you're going to get immersed into, a much different culture from what you're used to in the past.
Yeah. So I guess the major takeaway from that is basically, I don't know. I mean, it's just being open to like moving to a certain area, or like
Right.
not being closed-minded when you move to different aspects. Me, so to speak, I guess like it just comes full circle.
I think with
for
you,
me.
like, you had always been in Raleigh, and that was what was comfortable. Your parents were there, and I remember when you called me, you're like, dude, like I just need to do something different. Anything.
And I did.
I was like, all right, well, come on up to DC. We got you. We'll take care of you.
Yeah.
Get you inundated into what is going on up here, and this will just be a completely different life. And I think that sure you've grown a lot from that, but anybody that has an experience like that will grow from that.
Right.
Because
So it's healthy. Like
Right.
moving full circle, moving I think is a natural thing. Like people should do it. I am encouraging. This is coming from me, and this whole situation that we've talked about, do it. Like if you've ever thought about moving in your entire life, moving cities, whatever, like if you have a plan, perfect. If you don't, I mean, still jot something down, but if you still want to get out there and like do something different, move, man. Like the world is so huge. Having moved from my hometown to DC has opened up my perspective just on people, on life, on work, everything. And so, I mean, I think the points that you're making, it just kind of like made me rethink why it was that I moved in the first place. But it also made me think like, you can't bag on the place that you come from.
No, yeah, I mean,
You cannot rag on the place that you come from because those are your roots. Like,
yeah,
that's
there's
where
nothing
you
wrong
have-
with like growing up in a certain area and maybe even like staying there for a little bit and like trying to figure your shit out.
Yeah.
I think people kind of get wrapped up in the, oh man, like I'm young and I want to do like all these crazy things.
I want to be young and
travel.
fresh and hip
Yeah.
and go meet the love of my life in this brand new city that who knows what's going on, and just that
Sure.
that rhetoric.
Yeah.
I kind of did a little extra there, but
It's all right. It's good to be extra from time to time.
sometimes you gotta be a little, sometimes you gotta be a little
It's
extra.
good to be a little extra from time to time.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Brad. Who else would it be? Initially, I had another piece to this podcast recorded. Me and Craig, we went on a nice little rant, but I didn't think we hit the major talking points of what I was looking for. So in that regard, I'm just ending the podcast right here. I apologize for that, but next week we'll have it completely revamped, reworked, rhetoricized. That's not even a fucking word, but we will have it reworked and up for next week. So gives us another talking point, and they're allowed to shit downstairs. Okay, thanks for listening, guys. Tune in for next week. Peace.